Welcome to the online class organized by ASAP. This is for the 8th semester students of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. Today, we have Dr. Nisha GK with us, who will be handling the subject Special Electrical Machines on the topic Reluctance Motor. Dr. Nisha GK received her BTech in EEE from TKM College of Engineering and Technology. She has done her MTech in Electrical Machines from Government College of Engineering, Trivandrum, and PhD in Electrical Engineering under Speed IT Scholarship Scheme from Government College of Engineering, Trivandrum. She is currently working as a professor in Mar Basilius College of Engineering and Technology, Trivandrum. She has over 20 years of experience in teaching. I welcome Nisha ma'am for this wonderful session.
Thank you, Anju. Okay. So today, good afternoon to you all. Today we will see the reluctance motor. So the main outline of the presentation are introduction, reluctance motor, its construction principle of operation, then synchronous reluctance motor, then switch reluctance motor, the inductance profile, the principle of operation, the SRM drive, and all those things. So the electrical machines, mainly you are having a conventional type and you are having a non-conventional type. So that means the conventional means electromagnetically the EMF will be induced depending upon the torque production. And the switch reluctance motor means the main principle of operation is variable reluctance principle. So based on the torque classification, we can have two, that is electromagnetically and the variable reluctance type. And electromagnetically means the interaction of the two magnetic field, the torque will be produced. And in variable reluctance type, depending upon the variable reluctance principle. So a reluctance motor, it's a type of electric motor that induces non-permanent magnetic poles on the ferromagnetic rotor. That means rotor does not have any windings or permanent magnets. It generates torque through the magnetic reluctance property. So different types of reluctance motors are there. Split phase variable reluctance, synchronous reluctance, then switch reluctance, variable reluctance stepping is there. So first we will see the split phase reluctance motor. So the reluctance motors are having high power density and low cost. So it is mainly used for many applications. And in split phase or the reluctance type motor, basically it has two main parts, that is stator and rotor. The stator is similar to that of a single phase induction motor, and the stator has three-phase symmetrical winding and which creates a sinusoidal rotating magnetic field in the air gap. And it is also known as that is split phase reluctance motor or a single phase reluctance motor. The stator mainly consists of a single winding and called it is main winding. So this is a structure. Machine is a single phase excited one. It carries only one winding on the stator and the excited winding wound on the stator and the rotor is free to rotate. So when you are taking a single winding, it cannot produce rotating magnetic field. Always it will produce a pulsating magnetic field as in the case of single phase induction motor. So the production of the rotating magnetic field, there must be at least two windings that have separated by phase angle. So this therefore the stator consists of additional winding called auxiliary winding. So in the starting condition, you will be having a starting winding and a running winding, or a main winding and an auxiliary winding. Auxiliary winding is nothing but the starting winding. Main winding is the running winding, and that is placed in slots. The phase difference between the currents carried by these two windings, starting winding and the running winding, will have a phase difference, and the fluxes react to produce the rotating magnetic field as in the case of a single phase induction motor using the split phase technique. Then the stator has laminated construction and made up of stampings to minimize the iron losses, mainly eddy current losses. And the stampings are made up of material silicon steel, that is to minimize the hysteresis loss. And it is slotted on its periphery to carry the windings called the stator winding. The stator carries winding excited by single phase AC supply, and the stator is wound for a definite number of poles. When you are taking the rotor has a particular shape, that is the air gap between the stator and the rotor is not uniform in order to have the reluctance property. So no DC field winding is there, or no DC supply is given to the rotor as in the case of a synchronous motor, and rotor is free to rotate, and the reluctance depend mainly upon the air gap length, and this rotor rotates due to the variable air gap between the stator and the rotor. And then the variation of the inductance of the winding is sinusoidal with respect to the rotor position. So here we can see the rotor of the reluctance motor is a salient pole or a projecting pole, And how we are obtaining this one is you have to cut, that is the rotor teeth. Some of the rotor teeth has to be removed in certain places to provide the desired number of salient rotor poles. And here we can see some of the teeth have been removed in 4 locations, 1, 2, 3 and 4 to get a 4-pole structure. So if you are cutting or removing the rotor teeth means you will be having a high permeance path and a low permeance path will be there. So if you are having here, you will be getting the high reluctance, and here you will be having the low permeance, and here you will be getting the high permeance, but you will be getting low reluctance. So higher permeance means that the permeance and the reluctance are inversely proportional, just opposite. One is the conductivity, one is the resistivity. So the high permeance means higher magnetic conductivity and higher inductance will be there. Low permeance means lower magnetic conductivity and lower inductance. Since you are having L is equal to N square by reluctance equation, and also the reluctance will be N square is the number of turns and the reluctance is equal to the inductance. And the air gap means reluctance means L means the length of the air gap divided by the permeability mu0 and relative permeability mu r, absolute permeability and relative permeability and the area. So the reluctance path between the stator and the salient poles are due to the small air gap. As you can see here, the combined one. This is a stator and this is the rotor, and where some part of the rotor teeth have been removed. You can see here. So 3 part you are removing the rotor teeth, and here you will be having the minimum reluctance, or you will be having high permeance, and here you will be having maximum reluctance means you will be having low permeance. So the rotor carries the short circuited copper or the aluminium to form just like a squirrel cage rotor of the induction motor. When the stator is connected to a single phase supply, motor starts as a single phase induction motor. Then a centrifugal switch will be there, and that will disconnect the auxiliary winding when the speed reaches about 75% of the synchronous speed. Then the motor continues to speed up as a single phase motor with the main winding in operation. And the reluctant torque is produced due to the tendency of the rotor to align itself with the axis of the rotating magnetic field with minimum reluctance position or the maximum inductance position. The stator magnetic field then pulls rotor into the synchronism and keeps it magnetically locked. That means a synchronous, as in the case of a synchronous motor. Then the rotor pulls in synchronism, and the torque exerted on the rotor is known as the reluctance torque. Normally, you are having 2 torques will be there, one fundamental torque and reluctance torque will be there. But in the case, since you are not having any DC winding, DC field winding, only reluctance torque will be there. That reluctance torque is causing the variable reluctance principle. So the rotor continues to rotate with the speed equal to the synchronous speed of the rotating magnetic field, as in the case of a synchronous motor. So at synchronism, the induction torque disappears. That means at starting you are having an induction torque. When the speed attains 75% of the synchronous speed, then this induction torque disappears and rotor remains in synchronism due to only synchronous reluctance torque. The auxiliary winding will be cut. So the motor can develop torque only at synchronous speed. It should be started and brought near the synchronous speed by induction motor. So there will be an angle between the stator poles and rotor poles, and that is known as the torque angle or the load angle. And the torque angle will be proportional to the reluctance torque. And the maximum reluctance torque possible is at an angle of 45 degrees. And the load taken by the reluctance motor is only a fraction of the load taken by the 3-phase induction motor. So as you can see here, you are having, this is the torque speed characteristics. You can have the main winding and the auxiliary winding. During the starting, you will be having 200 to 250 to 300% of the starting torque, full load torque will be available. And when the speed attains 75% of the rate, synchronous speed, then the auxiliary winding will be cut, and then it will be running in the main winding only. And this is the pull-in torque. Pull-in torque means it is the ability of the motor to pull into synchronism when changing from induction to synchronous motor operation. That is the pull-in torque. So this is the operating range corresponding to the area. So the torque developed shall be a difference between the direct axis. According to Blonder's 2 reaction theory, the MMF has to be split into 2, that is one along the direct axis, that is the polar axis, one along the quadrature axis. So the difference between the direct axis and the quadrature axis synchronous inductance, it depends upon the torque production. And if it is higher, then you will get more torque, and the torque is developed due to the variation in reluctance. So the maximum torque is possible at delta is equal to 45 degree. If it exceeds, means instability will be there. So the from the torque speed characteristics, the starting torque depends on the rotor position, and it is varies from 250 to 350% of its full load speed, full load torque. And the when it attains 75%, auxiliary winding will be disconnected, and then it will be rotating at synchronous speed. And again, then the full load torque, that means when the motor operates at constant speed, the torque will be 200. That is, full in torque will be 200% of its full load torque. So when you are loading the motor above the value of the pull out torque, the maximum torque, then the motor loses synchronism. So then it will be running as a single phase induction motor up to over 500% of the rated torque. So here also at starting, cogging will be there. The cogging can be reduced by minimizing the skewing. Minimizing. Cogging can be minimized by skewing the rotor or making the number of poles of the rotor and the stator different. So the advantages are less maintenance, DC supply is not necessary, simple and robust construction, constant speed characteristics, and applications are an automatic regulator we can use, signaling devices, recording instruments, computer peripherals, teleprinter, timer circuits, gramophone, signaling devices, anywhere you can use here, this one. The main disadvantages are high torque ripple will be there, and noise will be there, low efficiency since you are having no DC field winding, low power factor will be there, and fraction of load is possible, that is 1/3 to 1/2 power rating compared to the single phase induction motor, that is less capacity is there, and size of the motor is large as compared to synchronous motor. Next we will move on to the synchronous reluctance motor, where the same you are having a stator and rotor, and the stator is made up of laminated ferromagnetic material mainly to reduce the hysteresis and the eddy current loss, that is the iron losses, to reduce the iron losses. And the stator core is attached to the stator frame, and the slots are provided along the inner periphery of the stator core, and the stator carries three-phase winding, and here semi-closed slots are used and the distributed windings are used. Semi-closed slots means the air gap between the stator and the rotor is small as compared to an open slot. So that means it reduces the magnetizing current and it improves the power factor also. Here we can see this the armature conductors and slots are there. This is a stator core and this is a frame. And you can have the different rotor constructions, semi-closed structure of a stator, and you can have this is the rotor part. So the rotor means it is constructed to vary the armature inductance sinusoidally, and the inductance should be maximum along the direct axis and minimum along the quadrature axis. And the difference between the two is mainly depending upon the torque, and if it is large means you will get large torque. So in order to generate maximum torque, the different types of rotor constructions are possible. The segmental rotor construction, radially laminated rotor construction, axially laminated rotor construction are also possible. So you can see this is the segmental rotor construction, and this is the two-pole synchronous reluctance motor having the aluminum flex barriers connected to the rotor. And here the rotor laminations are there, magnetic, non-magnetic materials are used here. And here also, this is a four-pole synchronous reluctance motor. As you can see, this is a circular shape, this is the radial one, and this is the axial type. So here, the axially laminated rotor means you are having flex barriers made of thin sheets of non-magnetic material, and it should be introduced in the quadrature flex part. So normally brass or aluminum is used as a flex barrier, and the direct axis inductance is not affected much by the flex barriers as the thickness is very small. But in the case of radially laminated rotor, it is having a circular laminations, and this makes the motor self-starting capability. So this is the axially laminated rotor, and this is the radially laminated one. You can see a circular type. So as you can see here, you are having an air, so that is having high reluctance, and here you are having a low reluctance part, that is blue and the white shades. Here, as you can see, in the case of a radially one, this is the high magnetic reluctance, and here you are having the low magnetic reluctance since it is a circular shape. And as we can see, the axial air gap motors and the radial air gap motors main comparison. Axial is mainly used for low speed application, and radial is high speed application. And here the lamination is axial, here the lamination is in radial. And here it is having less mechanical strength, and here you are having more mechanical strength. And the axial laminated motor gives best performance, but it is unsuitable in industry because of it is difficult to have a mass production with folding and assembling of the laminations. So in radially laminated rotor has best potential for economic production. So in the synchronous reluctance motor, the principle of operation, if you are the stator is provided with a balanced three-phase supply, then the voltage it will produce a rotating magnetic field in the air gap which rotates at synchronous speed. Then the rotating magnetic field exerts a reluctance torque on the rotor to align its projecting poles. So the synchronous reluctance motor starts as an induction motor. At running condition, the reluctant torque pulls the rotor into synchronism with the stator field. You can see the different phases. When it is NS and here when it is SR, then it will be attracted. And even here also when it is SS, that is a stator pole, and here you are having NR, then that will be attracted. And here also the different condition. So when the rotor accelerates towards the synchronous speed means the low reluctance path will be there or the maximum inductance will be there. Then you can see the slip will be equal to 0 and the rotor pulled around by the reluctance torque only. No fundamental torque will be there. A step increase in the load slows down the rotor speed and the rotor poles lags the stator poles by an angle delta, that is known as the torque angle or the load angle, and the maximum torque angle is 45 degree possible, and if the load angle increases, that means it will be falls out of synchronism or instability will be there. Next we will see the torque equation of synchronous reluctance motor. In the synchronous reluctance machine, you are having since it is a balanced three-phase circuit, it is necessary to take only one phase for drawing the phasor diagram. And we can have this voltage as equal to the current into the resistance plus J into the D-axis current into the D-axis reactance plus J into the Q-axis current into the Q-axis reactance plus the EMF. So here I am taking the general expression. From that general expression, I will be coming to the synchronous reluctance motor torque expression. Okay, this is for the general case. And the synchronous reluctance motor torque equation, this is the phasor diagram. As you can see, the main current, the stator current can be divided into two components, one along the D-axis and one along the Q-axis, as you can see. So this is the ID and this is IQ. And we are having an EMF E, the voltage will be, this is the resultant voltage, the voltage will be the phasor sum of E, the EMF, plus you can see this green color, that is JIDXT. And then JIDXT means since it is even though it is a D-axis, so in this reference axis is a D-axis, since if you are having a J component 90 degree apart, so you'll be getting JIDXT. Even though it is IQ, you are having J component, so you'll be getting 90 degree apart, you will be getting JIQXQ. So you are having E, JIDXT and JIQXQ will be there, and you are having I into RI will be there. That will give you the resultant voltage. That is this is the resultant voltage V. And suppose if you are considering, if you are extending this I line, that means the stator current, and then you are drawing a perpendicular to meet the point joining JIQXQ and IRA, you will get a point here as A, and you can have a triangle ACB. See, here you are having ACB. So from this, you will be getting the saliency effect BD. So you can have either the expression as E plus JIDXT plus JIQXQ plus IRA to get B, or you can have, you are having E, then plus you are having this BD factor, we don't know the BD factor, this BD, then you are having this AB, then you can take IRA, then you will be getting the voltage. So you can have two different paths for getting the voltage expression. So this path, that means E plus this DB plus BA plus IARA will give you the saliency effect. So if you are having, this is the load angle delta, between E and V you are having the load angle, and then you are having theta means between V and I you are having the power factor angle, that is the, then you are getting this angle as theta minus delta. Since you are having 90 degree, here you will be getting 90 minus theta minus delta. Or you can have here also 90 minus theta minus delta, or this angle is nothing but theta minus delta. So from this you are getting the two component corresponding to this right angle triangle ACB. One is the horizontal component and another one is the vertical component. But we don't know the value corresponding to AB. So AB is whether it is depending upon Q or whether it is depending upon XD or XQ. But since we are having this component, if we are taking JIQXQ, then this will be this component will be AB of cos theta minus delta, and this component will be AB of sin theta minus delta. If you are taking this factor, we can see that this I into cos theta minus delta into that means AB into cos theta minus delta into x factor, that will be equal to JIQXQ. You can equate that factor, then you can take that value as this is nothing but you are having XQ component. And if you are taking this one, you will be getting AB into sin theta minus delta. And here you can see that this factor will be equal to ID into XQ. So here the total factor is JID into XD, and this BC factor is the vertical component that's equal to JID into XQ. So that means you are getting the saliency factor BD that is equal to ID into XD minus XQ. Okay. So then you are getting the equation as E plus JID into XD minus XQ is BD, plus you are having this I into XQ plus I into RI. So that is shown here. You are having V as equal to this much. If you are neglecting the losses, AC will be equal to this one. You can equate X is equal to the hypotenuse is equal to XQ component. And if you are equating, you will get IRI plus JI. This is a saliency factor plus JIXQ plus E will be there. And this is the voltage, and you have to take the current also. And if you are taking the real part of the voltage and the current conjugate to get the complex power, you will be getting, you can have the relation, that is if you are taking the real part, simply you are having EIQ plus XT minus XQ into IDIQ. And from that relation, you have to get ID and IQ. So how will you get ID and IQ? So from this one, you will get what is V cos delta. V cos delta, if you are taking this triangle, you will be getting V cos delta will be equal to V. If you are taking V cos delta, that will be equal to E plus IDXD. And if you are taking sin delta, V cos sin delta will be equal to IQXQ. So from this triangle, you can have this expression. So V cos delta is this one. From that, you can take ID component. V sin delta, IQ is equal to, just substitute this one, you will get the equation. One will be having the fundamental component, the other will be having the second harmonic component, since it is 2 times the fundamental component. So you are having a second harmonic component will be there. So fundamental component, second harmonic. If DC excitation is 0, that means E is equal to 0. That is the case with our case, that is a synchronous reluctance motor. No DC field winding is there, no excitation is there. That means E is equal to 0. If you are putting E as equal to 0, the fundamental component will be 0. Simply you will be having the second harmonic component, or we can call this as the, since it is having a saliency effect, we can call this power as the reluctance power. So the total power will be in the 3-phase circuit. So it is having 3 into this much. So why we are calling this delta is equal to 45 degree, you will get the maximum torque. Means if you are providing 45 degree, sin 90 will be there. Sin 90 is 1. That's why always we are telling that the maximum load will be possible at delta is equal to 45 degree. And you will get the torque will be equal to the total power divided by the omega. And this is a synchronous reluctance motor. This is the total torque, and this is the, you are having the synchronous torque and fundamental torque, and this is the reluctance torque. As you can see, in one cycle, in the fundamental cycle, you will be having 2 cycles will be there, two negative, positive, negative, positive. This is the second harmonic, and the resultant will be like this. And the advantages are this more reliable, and no electromagnetic losses will be there since there is no field winding. The rotor can be constructed entirely from the high strength, low cost materials, and it is mechanically strong and reliable and robust. Simple construction, higher efficiency, and cheaper than the permanent magnet and conventional synchronous motors. And it is when comparing with the induction motor, it's having high cost and needs speed synchronization to inverter output frequency. That is, your different power converter circuits are used. So by using the rotor position sensor and the sensorless control. And compared to the induction motor, it is having low power factor. And if you are increasing the saliency ratio, that is nothing but the direct axis inductance divided by the quadrature axis inductance factor, you can improve the power factor also. The applications, it can be used in metering pumps, auxiliary tie mechanism, wrapping and folding of machines, proportioning devices on pumps and conveyors, synthetic fiber manufacturing industries, processing continuous sheet or film material, positioning of control rods in nuclear reactors, synchronized textile drives, and constant speed applications such as recording instruments, control apparatus, regulators. Next, we will move on to the switch reluctance motor. So the switch reluctance motor, almost the same principle of operation. The motion is produced by a result of the variable reluctance principle. And when the stator winding is energized producing a magnetic field, the reluctance torque is produced, and it is by the tendency of the rotor to move to its minimum reluctance position or the maximum inductance position. So we can call this SRM as a electrically commutative AC machine and variable reluctance type. You can see you can have the stator and the rotor and all the components will be. And the stator has, again, you are having a salient poles and carries concentric windings of steel lamination stacked on the shaft. Rotor contains no conductors or permanent magnets. Due to the simple mechanical construction, the cost of the SRM is low, and many configurations of SRM can be obtained by selecting the number of phases, and the number of stator poles and the number of rotor poles can be chosen to get the configuration, the switch reluctance motor. And you can have either 4x2 or 6x4. 4 represents the stator pole and 2 represents the rotor pole. Here also you can have 8x4 or 10x6, etc. So that means always the stator pole will be greater than the rotor poles. And how will you get the phase corresponding to this one? The phase means if you are having the stator pole means 4x2, you will get the 2. This is a 2-phase system. If you are having 6 stator pole means 6x2, you will get 3-phase system. If you are having 8 stator poles means you will be getting 4 phase. So depending upon the stator poles, you have to take divided by 2, you will get the phases. That means the diametrically opposite has to be connected together to get the phase. So the higher the number of stator poles combination, higher will be the number of phases, and the torque ripple can be reduced. So we can say this one is a switch reluctance motor is a doubly salient but it is a singly excited machine, and the stator windings on diametrically opposite poles are connected together to form the phase of the motor. And here the SRM makes use of power semiconductor switching. As you can see A and A dash, and here you can see B and B dash, and here you can see C and C dash. So here the stator will be having 6 poles and the rotor will be having 4. That's why 6x4. Here you can have 8 stator poles and 6 rotor poles. Here you can see the diametrically opposite poles can be, diametrically opposite stator windings can be connected together to form one phase. And here also you can connect, you will get one phase, and here also you will get one phase. So since you are having, this is 8 pole, you will be having 8 stator poles means 4 phases will be there. So the stator and the rotor are salient in structure, and the stator windings are independent concentrated windings excited with power semiconductor switches and sources. And then no field windings are there. It's a singly excited one. Diametrically opposite windings are connected to form phase. Then the switch reluctance motor also convert the reluctance torque to mechanical power. Then in order to maintain rotation, adjacent windings are powered up in turn. That means first you have to energize A phase, then you have to energize B phase, then you have to energize C phase, etc. So as you can see, this is a 4-phase 8x6 SRM with switching circuit for one phase. So as here you can have A and A dash will be there, that is connected to the power semiconductor switches and the diodes. The diodes are mainly to, when the switch is off condition, you have to store the energy and it has to be fed back to the supply source also. So for that you are using freewheeling diodes also. So for each phase circuit with a single controlled switch or the power transistor or IGBT or MOSFET, anything you can use for any power semiconductor switches, and then you will be getting unidirectional current during the appropriate interval. Here you can see the windings, and this is the rotor and the stator part, and here you will be having the different phases that has to be connected to the switches, and then that has to be energized. And here also, when S1 is on, if you are having switching angle for the phase current is controlled and synchronized with the rotor position. Suppose if S1 is on means phase 1 will be in the minimum reluctance position or the maximum inductance position. And before switching on to S2, you have to de-excite this S1 and then you have to switch it on. Then if you are switching on S2 means this will be in the phase 2 will be in the minimum reluctance position or the maximum inductance position. Then moving on to the S3 means you have to de-excite S2 and then you have to energize the phase 3. Similarly, you have to move on. So then S1, then again S2, then again S3. And here you can see the number of rotor teeth and the stator poles must be even and should not be equal. Always the stator poles should be greater when comparing with the rotor poles. And the stator phase is energized when the inductance of that phase is low or increasing. And then the rotor position sensor is always required. So depending upon the rotor position, the switching operations at correct instance are taking place. Then you can see here, this N and S means it will be in the A phase is energized. And if B phase is energized means here you will be having north pole, here you will be having south pole. If it is south pole, here you will be having north pole. So B phase is energized. If it is C means you will be having north pole and here you will be having south pole. Here you will be having south pole and here you will be having north pole. So C phase can be energized. So when A phase is excited, reluctance torque causes rotor to turn and it aligns to the axis of the phase A. Then the excitation is changed to B and A has to be de-excited. Then the rotation is in the direction of energization. Suppose if you want to reverse the rotation, then you have to reverse the sequence of excitation. If it is ABC, you can have ACB also. So you always need a rotor position sensor. And the classification of the switch reluctance motor can be based on the nature of the motion and also that is whether it is a rotating type or a linear type. And then you can have the rotary motion can be again divided into radial axis and axial field type. That is SRM can be divided into rotary SRM and linear SRM. And the rotary SRM can be divided into radial field type and axial field type. Again, the radial field type can be divided into long flux path machine and short flux path machine. Long flux path machine is simply you can connect the diametrically opposite windings in series to form a phase. But here the adjacent pole windings have to be connected in series to form the phase winding. That is the only difference. So the axial field can be a single stack or a multi-stack. So single stack means single rotor and stator. So here you can have number of stator and rotor. So in radial field SRM, so the magnetic field path will be always along the radius. And here you can see this is a short magnetic flux path and this is the short flux path for a 5-phase radial field SRM. So the axial magnetic field means the magnetic field path will be in the axial direction. If the motion of the motor is linear, then you can have a linear switch reluctance motor also. It will be having a fixed part called the track and you will be having a translator, primary and secondary, same thing. So when the rotor position matches the turn on position, so the phase switches are turned on and then the phase voltage starts to build up phase current and this input energy will be stored in the magnetic field. A part will be there. Other part of the input energy will be converted to do the mechanical work and loss. With increasing inductance, the magnetic field energy will be increasing. So as you can see here, the curve, the motor with no saturation, magnetic saturation. Here you will be having this is the magnetization curve for the flux linkage versus current. So here you are having the core energy Wm. Core energy is the mechanical work done and this is the energy stored here. And here you can see the inductance with the rotor position. The inductance means this is the minimum inductance because this is the unaligned position. And when you are having this Lmax, the maximum inductance will be there once it is having an aligned position. And when you are having the flux linkage with the current, as you can see, this is the unaligned position and this is the aligned position. You can have the magnetizing curve C0 to C. And here you will be having the mechanical work done or the core energy and this is the stored energy. Okay. And when hit the turn off position also, you are having one mechanical work done and that means the power source will stop input energy and it will be having one mechanical power will be there and it will be having a path like this. If it is in the magnetization, it is 0 to C and the demagnetization it is C to 0. So you are having Wm2 and you are having Wd. Suppose if you are taking the total magnetic energy, the mechanical energy that will be Wm1 plus Wm2 in the magnetization and demagnetization part, then you are having the stored energy also. This is the final one. You are having unaligned position, you are having aligned position. You can have Wm1 and you can have Wm2. Wm1 is when it is in the magnetized condition And when it is in the demagnetized condition, that is a turn-off condition, you will be having Wm2. So Wm will be the total of these two, Wm1 plus Wm2. And if you are having this Wf, that is stored energy during the magnetization process, will be throughout at this much. When you are having the demagnetization, the Wm2 will be there. So you are having a reserve will be there. That reserve is the stored magnetic energy minus Wm2 during the demagnetization process. So from this, you can have an energy conversion efficiency that is similar to the power factor of AC machines. That is, you have to take the ratio of the supply and the recovered energy. Larger the energy conversion means it improves the efficiency also. So normally we are taking the total mechanical energy divided by the mechanical energy plus the reserve part. Normally it will be varying from 0.6 to 0.7. So as you can see here, you are having a positive torque will be there if the inductance, this is the inductance profile, inductance will be varying. So you will be getting a positive torque, and then it will be maintaining a constant level, then no torque will be produced. Then you are having a negative torque will be there. So this is a negative torque and this is a positive torque. So to achieve the effective rotating power, switching excitation must be synchronized with the inductance profile. So here also you can see you are having the 4 points A, U and J. A represents the aligned position where the inductance will be maximum, and then K represents the end of overlap, and U represents the unaligned position where the stator and the rotor are not aligned, it is not in synchronism, and J means it is a start of overlap, that means the both will be almost in synchronism with each other, and that A position again you can see it is in the aligned position. And here also you are having the positive torque means you are having a positive torque will be there. When the phase switch on during the rising inductance level, you will get positive torque, and if it switch on in the during the falling inductance, you will get the negative torque. And mainly the switch reluctance motor, you are having for the analytical model, you are having three equations. There is a voltage equation, motional equation, electromagnetic torque equation. So we will see. The co-energy is the mechanical work done, or the energy can be expressed as Wm will be equal to integral of the flux linkage into di, or the stored energy will be equal to integral of I into d psi. This is the equivalent circuit, and you can have this R and you can have this I and the EMF, that is d psi divided by dt. Applying Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, you can have the induced EMF that is equal to d psi by dt, or the magnitude of the EMF. The psi is nothing but, that is E is equal to N into d phi by dt. N into phi is the flux linkage psi, or that can be equal to L into di by dt, or N into phi, that is the flux linkage will be equal to L into I. Simply you can substitute psi will be equal to L into I, and you have to differentiate with respect to t. For L into di by dt, or you can have I into dl by dt, or in terms of theta you can have dl by d theta into d theta by dt. So where d theta by dt is omega. So you have to obtain the expression in terms of omega. That's why we are moving to dl by d theta into d theta by dt. Then the flux linkage is psi is equal to this one. The same expression you can expand. So here the power developed will be, that is the power received from the supply will be E into I. So you can multiply it with I. And from the energy stored in the magnetic field, you will be getting Wf will be stored energy will be half Li square, or the power due to the variation of the magnetic field, just you have to differentiate with respect to T. So you will get this expression when you are differentiating, you will get like this. The final expression will be like this. And in order to get the mechanical power developed, the power received from the supply has to be taken, the difference between the power received from the supply and the power due to variation of magnetic field. You will get the final power equation of the reluctance motor, that is half of omega I square dl by d theta. So the torque developed will be T is equal to Pm by omega, that is angular velocity, taking expression half I square into dl by d theta. This is the torque expression corresponding to the reluctance motor. So the voltage equation is V is equal to Ri plus d psi by dt, and motional equation is T is equal to J d omega by dt plus B omega plus TL. J moment of inertia and B is the viscous friction coefficient. Electromagnetic torque will be half I square dl by d theta. So since we can see the torque is proportional to the square of current, so it is current can be unipolar to produce the unidirectional torque. It will give good starting torque also. The stator inductance is non-linear, so it is not easy to have the simple equivalent circuit development. So here in the switch reluctance motor, we are mainly having three regions. That is a constant torque region, that is the torque speed characteristics, and you are having constant power region and falling power region. So the constant torque region will be up to the rated speed, and here you can have the torque will be constant. Once it is above the rated speed condition, then the region is this one, that is the constant power region, where the torque will be proportional to 1 by omega, or T omega will be equal to constant. That is, T omega is nothing but the power. And when you are having the region 3, that is the falling power region, or the constant slip speed region. So here this T will be proportional to 1 by omega square, or you can say T omega square will be equal to 1. The same thing is explained here also. At rated speed, below the base speed, torque can be maintained constant. And here this is the falling linearly with increasing speed, that is T proportional to 1 by omega. And next we will see the basic components of SRM drive. So it can be divided into a utility, AC to DC converter, capacitor network, DC to DC converter, and an SRM. So that means this is the utility interface, and this is the front end circuit, this is the power converter circuit. So here you are having the SRM. So you are having the front end circuit and the power converter, these two circuits are normally known as the SR converter. And the utility interface is mainly to rectify AC to DC voltage, and you can have different types of utility interface are there. Voltage doubler circuit is there, single phase diode bridge rectifier is there, half control rectifier is there, full control rectifier is there. Then in the front end circuit, you have the high voltage ripple will be there in the rectifier output. So you have to eliminate that one. You have to use a smoothing capacitor which is having a high value. And this is the front end topology. You can have either passive type or active type. The different types are pure capacitor or capacitor with diode, or connected DC link or separated DC link. So this is the various classifications. So you can have a single capacitor, or you can have a two capacitor in series, or you can have a two capacitor in parallel, or you can have a split DC link. That means it will be dividing the supply voltage, and you can have a doubler DC link circuit also. Then two capacitors with a diode is there. Then you can have active type capacitors connected to DC link. So different types. There are also DC to DC different converter topologies are shown. Then classification of SR converter, you can divide it into depending upon the phase switches and the commutation. So here you can have the SR converter classification. You can have single switch is possible, Q+1 switch is possible, 1.5 Q switch is possible, 2Q switch is possible, or you can have 2Q+1 switch is possible. Each one can be divided into R dump, or that is bifilar, split DC, or you can have C dump possibilities there, resonant possibilities there, asymmetric type is there, parallel type is there. Then depending upon the commutation type, you can have dissipative, magnetic, resonant, or capacitive. You can have the different classification also. And this is the switch reluctance motor drive system mechanism. You can have a power converter. Then this is the SRM. Then the rotor position has to be sensed, and using a signal processor, you can given to the any controller, microprocessor, or any controller. And here also the power converter current has to be sensed, and that has to be fed to the microprocessor or anything using the signal processor. And what are the requirements of power converter means each phase of the SRM should be excited independently. An excited pole should be demagnetized before the exciting the other pole. And you can have a freewheeling diode will be there, that is to fed back the energy. And then you have, the circuit will be cost effective. So this is SRM with the one phase asymmetric inverter. So you can see this is the SRM, and you can have an encoder, and you can take the rotor position, you can sense it, and you can give it to the speed controller. And here you can have the inverter path also. And this is the advanced angle control with the feedback signal, means you can have the speed reference and then given to the SR controller. Then the motor will be there. You can connect it to the load, then sense the speed. And you can have different configuration. You can have a 4-phase asymmetric bridge converter is there. And here, as you can see, you are having the switches are S1 and S2. If you are exciting at a time, one is excited. That means independent control is possible. So if you are having phase A, means this has to be excited, means S1 and S2 has to be turned on. So you will be having this circuit. The circuit will be closed, and there is current will be flowing through the circuit. When it is off condition, means the energy will be fed back to the supply through D1 and D2. And if you are having a bifilar binding, means it will be having a two identical and magnetically coupled coils. When this is turned on, means the circuit will be completed like this. And if then it is turned off, means through the diode and this winding, then the complete will be completed. The circuit will be completed. Then you are having a the 4-phase split phase converter is there. So in the case of split phase converter, the power supply is divided into two halves. You are having capacitor will be there. Either you can connect here or you can connect here also. So this power supply is divided into two halves, and during conduction, energy is supplied to the phase by. So energy is supplied to the phase by one half of the power supply, and during the commutation period means energy fed back to the supply also. Or you can have CDM construction, or you can have RTM construction, any that can be used. Then you can have the position sensors. So position sensors means phototransistors, Hall effect sensor, magnetic sensor, pulse encoder, variable differential transformer, optical position sensing can be used. If you are using optical sensor means it will be having mounted on the shaft of the SRM slots and teeth equal to that of the rotor, and you will be having equal width, and it should satisfy 2 raised to n greater than or equal to m. That means n is the number of sensors and m is the number of phases. And next you are having Hall effect sensor means the light disk will be placed on the shaft with alternate north and south ceramic magnets. Then you can have, so here you are having the disadvantages of the switch reluctance motor. The power density is lower, and it is having a non-linear control characteristics. Higher torque ripple will be there, and in order to eliminate that one, you have to use a large filter capacitor. And the doubly salient structure of the SRM causes higher acoustic noise also, and the higher torque ripple and the acoustic noise are the most critical advantages of SRM when comparing with other machines. And since the absence of permanent magnets means the burden on the excitation on stator windings is also there. That means it increases the converter kVA requirement, and position information is required to control the SRM. Advantages means it can be greater manufacturing economy when compared with the distributed winding of AC machines, and rotor is smallest and is lowest moment of inertia. It is mechanically robust and rigid for high speed operation. Winding losses is much smaller when compared to other. And here the cooling is also simpler since you are not having any winding on the rotor part. And the maximum permissible rotor temperature is high, and the extended constant power region is also possible in the case of SRM. And applications can be used in washing machine, vacuum cleaners, or a passenger train, or the bullet train, or you can use in weaving machine, or you can have a flame-proof drive system for potentially explosive atmosphere. So this is the references. Thank you.
A few questions.
Yes.
First one is, what is axial air gas motor and synchronous reluctance motor?
What is
axial air gas motor?
Axial air gap motor. So in synchronous reluctance motor, mainly you have three types of rotor constructions are there. One is the segmental rotor, one is axial rotor, one is radial rotor. So axial rotor means you are having flex barriers will be there, and you have to provide that flex barriers in the quadrature axis flex path. So it will be always with a thin sheet of non-magnetic material. And if you are providing a thin sheet of non-magnetic materials, D-axis, that is the LD, is not affected much by the flex barrier since the thickness is small. And you can have either aluminum or brass can be used, and the Q-axis inductance will be decreased since the thickness is small. So that is one type of axial rotor construction. Suppose if you are having a radial rotor, the laminations are single piece. That means circular laminations are possible. It is also a non-magnetic flex barriers are used. And here, a small bridges are provided at both the ends to hold the laminations together. That is the major difference between the first one and the second one. Here, if the laminations are assembled to have a cylindrical shape, this assembled core has to be put into a liquid aluminum bath under pressure. Then this aluminum filled in the air gap will be just same as that of an imperfect short circuited secondary winding, just like that of a squirrel cage induction motor. Thus, the rotor will be having a squirrel cage structure. So that means aluminum fills up the air gap in the case of a radial one. So in the radial means axial one, that is mainly for the low speed application. Radial means it is mainly for the high speed applications. Okay, Anju?
Okay, ma'am. Next question. In SRM, how could we keep the small switching period of winding time constant L by R of the each coil? Will the DC be modulated during the period of movement from one pole to another?
Okay, so in the case of SRM means you are having the different phases. So if you are having, depending upon the stator and the rotor pole arrangement. Suppose if you are having 8 by 6 means 8 stator pole and 6 rotor pole will be there. So the phase is 8 by 2, you will be having 4 phases. So if you are having 4 phases means you have to excite each phase independently. Suppose if you are exciting A phase, you have to de-excite B, C and D. And if you are exciting A phase means you can have this A phase winding, then you can provide this different power semiconductor switches can be provided. So for that you can use different power converters. Either you can use 2 switching devices or n+1 power switching devices and n+1 diodes for n phases, or you can have bifilar winding, or you can have split link winding, or you can have C-dump winding, or you can have asymmetric converter, or you can have R-dump winding. So any converter circuit can be used. And in the case of a C-dump one, you are having a C-dump capacitor will be there, and that will feed the stored energy from the dump capacitor to the supply through the step-down chopper circuit. So you can, if you are having a PWM technique or a hysteresis current controller, so then you can adjust the duty cycle or the chopping period in such a way as to get the control for the SRM.
Okay, ma'am. Next question. What is meant by saliency ratio?
So saliency ratio means always you have to take LD by LQ or XD by XQ. So that means in the case of a cylindrical rotor, you are having a uniform air gap, but in the case of a salient pole construction, you are having non-uniform air gap. Normally, by the Blondel's two reaction theory, the MMF can be divided into two components. Two components means one along the polar axis, that is known as the direct axis, and one along the quadrature axis, and that is known as the interpolar axis, that is known as the Q axis. So you are having a direct axis and the quadrature axis component will be there. And mainly the direct axis component will be used for magnetizing purposes, and the quadrature axis component will be for cross magnetizing effect. So if you are taking the, in the case of a synchronous motor, if you are taking the power expression, you will be having two components. That is the fundamental component, and you are having the second harmonic component due to the saliency effect. Saliency effect means XT minus XQ. So if you are considering this factor XT and XQ means having, I don't know whether you are there aware of this slip test. They have conducted the experiments in the machines lab also in the slip test, where we are taking this XT by XQ ratio. So depending upon the machine configuration, you will be getting the different ratios. So always you have to maintain that saliency effect, or the saliency ratio XT by XQ to get a higher torque and the efficiency. Okay.
Okay, next question. What is the purpose of rotor position sensor?
Okay. So rotor position sensor means in general case we are exciting, we are giving the supply to the, if you are having a synchronous machine, you are having a stator and rotor will be there. You are giving supply to the stator and you are having a DC field winding is there, and you are giving DC supply to the rotor also. But in the case of switch reluctance motor, since we are exciting each winding independently, so you need to know the correct sequence of rotor position. So once if you don't know the correct sequence of the rotor position, it is not possible to align this align the stator poles and the rotor poles, and it does not have pull into synchronism function. That means if you are exciting the A phase winding, then when the rotor poles will align to the stator poles or the stator magnetic field at minimum reluctance position or the maximum inductance position, then you will be getting, there will be the magnetically locked condition. So once you know the rotor position where it has reached at 50 degree or 30 degree or 45 degree or 60 degree, then only you have to de-excite the A phase winding, then you have to energize the B phase winding, then only you will get a continuous rotation. So otherwise you won't get a continuous rotation because you are independently exciting each winding. If you are having three-phase winding, the three winding has to be excited by A phase at first, and then you have to excite B phase, then you have to excite C phase. Suppose if you want the reverse of the rotation means you can have A, C, B also in the counterclockwise or the clockwise direction. So The rotor position is essential for controlling the speed of the SRR. Okay, Anju?
Okay, next question. Which is better, induction or reluctance motor?
Okay, induction. So you can have induction motor means that is a three-phase induction motor means you are having the self-starting machine. If you are considering a single-phase induction motor, that is not self-starting. If you are considering the reluctance motor also, it is not self-starting. If you are considering synchronous motor also, it's not self-starting. So the thing is you have to compare the reluctance motor, induction motor and the single phase induction motor. So the 90% of the industrial applications are induction motor, that is a induction motor. But here you are having the reluctance motor. The main drawback is the torque ripple and the noise. So the torque ripple has to be reduced for the increasing the efficiency also. So it is better to have induction motor rather than having reluctance motor. But switch reluctance motor are in the advanced stage. The researches are going on in this area for improving the torque production. That is, you have to reduce the ripples and improve the torque. And it is also used in the automobile also. Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Next question. Why is a three-phase reluctance motor preferred over a single-phased?
Okay. In the case of a single phase reluctant motor, it is mainly depending upon the split phase technique. Split phase technique means since it is not self-starting means you have to provide, you are having a single winding, that is the main winding, or it is called as the running winding, and you have to provide an auxiliary winding or a starting winding for the starting purpose. So if you are having a main winding and the starting winding or the auxiliary winding, so the main winding, if you are having a single winding means it will produce a pulsating magnetic field. So we always need a rotating magnetic field. So in order to have a rotating magnetic field, you have to make the single phase into a two-phase structure. So for that, we are having two windings. That means auxiliary winding and then main winding will be there. Then definitely there will be a phase angle between the two windings. Once you have the phase angle, you can have the two-phase structure. Then the machine will be just acting as a self-starting machine. That means you will be having a centrifugal switch will be there. The centrifugal switch has to be opened at 75%. When it attains 75% of the rated speed, then the centrifugal switch will be opened and the auxiliary winding will be removed, and then it will be running only on the main winding. Then when it is in the case of induction motor, then it will be running at less than the synchronous speed. But in the case of switch reluctance motor, this will be attains to the magnetically locked condition with synchronous reluctance motor. It will be magnetically aligned with the rotor position and it will be running at synchronous speed. So in the switch reluctance motor and the single phase split phase winding means single phase you are having additional winding has to be provided. But in the three phase switch reluctance motor, we are having a special rotor construction for a short circuited secondary winding, and then you can have this magnetic field structure.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. One more. In the 79th
fine.
page, there is a double equal sign and double hyphen sign in the power developed equation. What does it mean?
Okay, fine. I will take that 79 slide. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Maybe I don't know. Okay. Double equal sign. Which one? This one? Maybe he is asking this one. Okay, fine. So here you have to obtain the mechanical power developed. The mechanical power developed is the difference between the power received from the supply and the power due to variation of magnetic field. So the energy stored in the magnetic field is half Li square. Here you can take the rate. That means if you are differentiating with respect to dt, you will be having this will be equal to half of L of, you have to differentiate I with respect to time. So you will be getting I square is 2I into di by dt. Is it clear? Then you will be having the second component half of I square, you have to put constant. Then you have to differentiate L with respect to dt. So here what you are doing is you have to differentiate. If you are giving this L as constant, you have to differentiate I square. If you are keeping I square as constant, you have to differentiate with respect to L. That's the only thing here we are doing. So you are having half of L into 2I into di by dt plus half of I square into dl by dt. This is equal to, okay, this one is, this expression is equal to, or you can have dwf by dt is the same thing you are having in the LHS also, left hand side also. This is the right hand side. This equation can be written as, that is why I am putting here as equal to. So you are having, if 2 and 2 get cancelled, so you will be getting Li into di by dt plus you have this half I square into dl by dt. Since we need an angular position, if you want to find out the torque expression, you need omega. So in order to get the omega factor, what you have to do is you have to differentiate this L with respect to theta. Then we will be having dl by dt can be expressed as dl by d theta into d theta by dt, where d theta by dt is the angular frequency omega, or this expression is again equal to, okay. So that is, the LHS side remains the same, that is dwf divided by dt is here also. Simply you can have, this will be equal to Li di by dt plus half of this d theta by dt we can represent as omega, that is the angular velocity in radians per second, or you can have this omega into I square into dl by d theta. So with this expression only, you will be getting the mechanical power developed and mechanical power developed. That means the mechanical power developed will be the difference between the power received from supply, that is E into Y, you are getting one expression, and this is the power due to variation of the magnetic field from the energy stored in the inductor. Then you will be getting the final mechanical power is equal to half of omega I square into dl by d theta. This is an important relation in the case of switch reluctance motor. Any reluctance motor, you are having this mechanical power developed will be this factor. And suppose if you want the torque developed means, you will be getting this mechanical power divided by omega. So that means if you are dividing with omega, you will simply get half of I square into dl by d theta. So this is the torque developed in the case of a variable reluctance motor. Okay. So this is not,
Okay, ma'am, last question.
this is not equal to, this is df by dt. Okay. dw by dt. Okay, fine. Okay.
Ma'am, we have the last question. How is torque developed in reluctance motor if we are not giving an excitation to rotor?
So, okay, torque developed means in the case of you are having axial rotor and radial rotor type is there, then the aluminium filled in the air gap channel forms an imperfect short circuit secondary winding, that is just like a squirrel cage induction motor. And here in the case of synchronous motor, we are giving DC field excitation, but in the case of synchronous reluctance motor, we are not giving any DC field. In the case of switch reluctance motor or anything, in the case of split phase or in the case of synchronous reluctance motor, we are not giving any DC field excitation. We are having this rotor having a particular shape, and that shape will be having a salient pole effect, and that salient pole will lock into synchronism if you are having a synchronous machine. So in the case of synchronous reluctance motor, in the case of synchronous reluctance motor, you can have segmental rotor, axial rotor, or radial rotor part will be there. In the case of split phase, you are having aluminum and copper bars will be there, and they can be shorted by means of end rings. Then you will be getting the same as that of the squirrel gauge construction, and you can have the torque production. But in the case of synchronous reluctance motor, depending upon the different shape of the rotor, you will be achieving the short circuited secondary part, and you can have the torque production. In switch reluctance motor also, you are having this different, it is having a double saliency effect, but it is singly excited. Remember, always you are having a singly excited type basis reluctance motor type, and it is having a double saliency effect is there. That is the main thing with the synchronous reluctance, reluctance motor and synchronous motor. Okay, any more questions?
Ma'am, the questions are over. So thank you so much, Nisha ma'am, for this wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.